Part 87. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 861. Zhu Yun's mind was not on this, and he was kicked out before he could say anything. In desperation, he had to put away the broken book and found Yeziyi instead. Brother Ye. Although his level was lower than his own, he was still very polite to Yeziyi. Zhu Yun, is something wrong? Yeziyi glanced at Zhu Yun and put away the sword in his hand. The mountain gate was beginning to take shape, and he no longer needed to follow him. He was currently practicing his sword. Well, I'm leaving. Zhu Yun said. Leaved? When will you come back? Yezahun didn't care. It was impossible for a person like Zhu Yun to stay in Qixingmen forever. The outside world, even the spiritual world, belongs to him. I don't know, maybe I won't come back. Zhu Yun said lightly, and Yeziyi's figure suddenly froze. Going to the spirit world? Yes, go to the spirit world. I told the master just now, but he kicked me out before I could explain the matter. Zhu Yun touched his nose and smiled bitterly. Brother Ye, something may happen to the demon refining tower. If in the future, someone comes to tell me why the demon refining tower has become like this, why bother saying that everything is caused by me? Yeziyi was not stupid, otherwise he would not have become the elder of Wanjian Mountain, nor would he have designed to pursue Yesuanhua and hide in the Lingjian sect for 100 years in order to save his father's life. What do you know? Yeziyi raised his head and asked seriously. I don't know either. Everything is just a guess. In short, if anyone comes to question me, you can describe me as a sinless person. Please. After saying that, Zhu Yun bowed to Yeziyi, and without waiting for him to say anything, he turned around and walked out of the house. The demon kings have been waiting for a long time. Zhu Yun did not go to find Big Dog Ergu or Menguia. He was afraid that he would be reluctant to let go when the time came, so he left a letter early. Let's go. Half a month later, people reached the far north. Is this the ancestral land of the Lin family? In front of a huge lake, a group of demon kings couldn't help but exclaimed. It's not that they have never seen such a big lake. In fact, this lake gives people a completely different feeling. They are all the most powerful beings in the Eastern Sheng realm, so they naturally feel it. This is also my first time here. After crossing this lake, we can reach the ancestral land of the Lin family. Zhu Yun chuckled, jumped up, and flew towards the other side of the lake. Go, go. On the way here, Zhu Yun told them the truth. Taking the passage to the spirit world did not require the consent of the human monks. Because the human race cannot walk, the passage is there. Because there are so many people leaving, it will not affect those who come after you. Moreover, he only needs to talk to the Lin family. I believe Lin Xiaoqi will give him this face. The ancestral land of the Lin family is isolated from the rest of the world. Since the incident 100 years ago, almost all the monks in the race thought that the Lin family was destroyed. But no one thought that the Lin family and Lin Xiaoqi were accidentally trapped in the mineral veins of Qingnu Town. So time passed, and when Lin Xiaoqi came back, the Lin family's ancestral land was like a deserted land. Look, there are 3 people there. After passing through the layers of fog, 3 figures were sitting quietly by the lake, and a demon king couldn't help but exclaimed. They heard Zhu Yun say that there are at most 2 people here. Why did 3 people appear? And the voice of the demon king also passed through the mist on the lake and reached the ears of these 3 people. They stood up suddenly, looking extremely panicked. Each of the 10 demon kings exudes the aura of the demon king. There are so many demon cultivators, why aren't you afraid? At this time, Zhu Yun also saw these 3 people clearly. Besides Lin Xiaoqi and Li Mo, the other person turned out to be Feng and he. Old man Feng, why are you here? Zhu Yun was stunned and fell to the lake. When they heard Zuyun's voice, Li Mo and Lin Xiaoqi also stopped, but their expressions were very wary. Is it possible that Zuyun brought these demon kings? What is the purpose? But at this time, Zuyun had no time to pay attention to them, but stared at Feng Anhe. It turned out that he and Feng Anhe had an agreement to go to the spirit world together. But later, when he didn't see Feng Anhe at the demon refining tower in the East Sheng realm, he subconsciously thought that Feng Anhe also died in it, so he didn't plan to go to Huayden Valley. This, little brother, hey, you have reached the peak of the late nascent soul stage. Feng Anhe took a breath of cold air and was stunned. Originally, he could rely on his high level and call him little brother Zuyun, which would give him enough face. But I never thought that after not seeing each other for a long time, Zuyun would be at a higher level than himself. You didn't go to Dongshenjing. Zuyun did not answer Feng Anhe's question, but kept staring at Feng Anhe. What are you doing in Dongshenjing? Feng An and San San smiled, that's the territory of the demon clan. Besides, there are barriers between the two realms. I can't get through even the nascent soul stage. By saying this, Zuyun knew that Feng Anhe didn't know what was happening in the mortal world. Come to think of it, he came here very early, maybe, just waiting for himself? Fortunately, I changed my plan again and was going to the spirit world immediately. If you still have the previous idea, maybe you will wait here for hundreds of years before I come. Are you waiting for me? Zuyun asked. Yes, yes. Feng Anhe nodded repeatedly, but he did not dare to say anything else. Humph, Zuyun snorted coldly, then turned his head and smiled at Lin Xiaoqi and Li Mo, too, long time no see. While he was speaking, a group of demon emperors also fell behind Zuyun and remained silent to show their respect for Zuyun. The three of them were not stupid. They all understood the relationship and couldn't help but be surprised by Zuyun. Especially since Zuyun just talked about Dongsheng realm, I think something big must have happened there. Zuyun, ah no, I wish seniors and juniors are polite. Limo is full of bitterness. This guy who has never seen the world must have had an adventure, right? You wanted to save yourself back then, but then you turned around and ended up in the late nascent soul stage. Lin Xiaoqi was even more trembling. It's okay, let me introduce it to you. Zuyun thought that these two people were afraid of the demon emperor behind him, but they didn't realize that it was because of their realm that they felt a little alienated from Zuyun. In fact, it is not alienation, it should be said that he is in awe of Zuyun. The bull demon emperor, the tiger demon emperor, the rabbit demon emperor, the snake demon emperor. Zuyun still introduced him. Every time they were introduced, they would be a little frightened. Oh my god, these are the 12 legendary demon clans. 10 of them came. After the introduction, Zuyun explained his intention. When he wants to go to the spirit world, the other demon emperors will come to explore the way first. If there are juniors who are suitable in the future, they will also be asked to come and ask Lin Xiaoqi to lead the way. Because Lin Xiaoqi is the only Lin family member left. Feng Anhe was very excited. Lin Xiaoqi fell into silence. Zuyun frowned and said, Brother Lin, is that inappropriate? It's not inappropriate, Lin Xiaoqi smiled bitterly and said, my realm is not enough to bring so many demon emperors at once. Is there anything special about this? Zuyun didn't know much about this spiritual world passage. If I were in the nascent soul stage, I wouldn't have much to worry about. But I only have the Dan formation stage, and I can only take one person with me at a time. And I can only walk once a month, otherwise, I will also get lost in the passage. Is this happening? Zuyun stared and said, all the demon emperors were also a little disappointed, especially the rabbit demon emperor. Because she wanted to find the right time to take her people there as soon as possible. Yeah, I'm not mature enough and I'm a drag on everyone. Lin Xiaoqi smiled bitterly and bowed. Zuyun quickly helped him up and said, I can't blame you. It's because I don't know the situation here. Zuyun, and this fellow deist Lin, brother Dayang chuckled and stood up and said, we don't have to enter the spiritual world passage, we just came here to tell fellow deist Lin in advance that if necessary in the future, we can also please make it easier for deist Lin. Of course, we will definitely get this benefit. We came in a hurry this time, and we don't know what fellow deist Lin needs. We hope to be respectful to him. Friends, practice will help. With that said, brother Dayang took out a storage bag and stuffed it into Lin Xiaoqi's hand. Ha ha ha, the Sheep King is right, we have plenty of elixirs in Dongsheng realm. If you are missing anything, just tell us. The Tiger Demon King smiled generously and took out a storage bag. They had helped Zuyun prepare the elixir before, but they were afraid that Zuyun would need something else by then, so they simply brought out all the elixirs from the clan's warehouse. Take out some at random, and they are all existences that can cause crazy looting in the previous Peeper realm. The other demon emperors also offered them one after another. It concerns the spiritual world, and they dare not neglect it. This. Lin Xiaoqi glanced at Zuyun, a little afraid to accept it. You can just keep the thoughts of the demon emperors. By the way, let me see what elixirs are here then. I can help you refine some elixirs that will help you practice. It can also be considered as my love for you. Thank you very much. Hearing this, Lin Xiaoqi was ecstatic. If he can really reach the nascent soul stage, not only will he live longer, but he will also be able to make friends with these monsters. From now on, it is absolutely impossible for an entire clan to be wiped out again. For a moment, Lin Xiaoqi began to have lustful thoughts. It seemed that he could also multiply his family and pass on the void-breaking spiritual eye technique. Live up to your ancestors. A few days later, Zuyun left a lot of elixirs, told all the demon kings about the demon refining tower, and also ordered Li Mo to go to the Peeper realm and Yusha realm to spread the news about the demon refining tower. Following the wind, and he flew to the center of the holy lake. Only then did they realize that the passage to the spiritual world was to go down from the holy lake. When they reach the bottom, there will be a teleportation array. The teleportation array will activate automatically without any human intervention, teleporting them into a mysterious mist. Stepping out of the fog, you can reach the spirit world. Zuyun was extremely calm. Because not only is he in the nascent soul stage, but he also possesses the pouring void spirit eye technique. Old man Feng, are you ready? Feng and he was excited and nervous at the same time. Zuyun glanced at him and couldn't help but ask. Okay, okay. Feng and he stretched out his hand from his arms, nodded repeatedly and said. Then let's go, remember to follow me. If you lose me, I won't be able to find you. After saying that, Zuyun used the void-breaking spirit eye technique and plunged into the holy lake. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 862. I don't know how deep the holy lake is, and following Feng and he, Zuyun didn't use his water spirit beads. After all, what will happen to Feng and he's relationship with him after he returns to his own Feng family? At that time, he also said that he had a sword body. Zuyun denied it directly. Of course, he is not a sword body either. But since Feng and he has agreed to go to the spirit world, he must do it naturally. This is where his Taoist heart lies. Zuyun's speed is very slow, the purpose is to prevent Feng and he from losing track. After an unknown amount of time, they finally stood at the bottom of the holy lake. Under the void-breaking eyes technique, he saw a formation. The lines on it looked familiar. It should be the teleportation array. Zuyun said. The complicated lines reminded him of the teleportation array at the foot of Barren Stone Mountain and Wanjian Mountain. Is this the teleportation array? Feng and he didn't understand the formation, but he could see the formation patterns on it, but they were like ghostly drawings. I thought I could walk all the way to the spirit world, but I didn't expect there was a teleportation array. Old man Feng, you have to follow closely. If you get lost, I won't be able to find you anywhere. Zuyun was putting the ugly words first. I know, I know. Feng and he nodded repeatedly. Originally he thought Zuyun was from the Lin family, but he came to the Lin family's ancestral land in advance and saw the conversation between Zuyun and Lin Xiaoqi, and then he also knew that Zuyun was an ordinary monk, but he had learned the void-breaking spiritual eye technique, that's all. If he loses himself, he won't come looking for him. Because it is not his task to lead the way. Zuyun just took him with him along the way. That's good, let's stand in the center of the formation. Zuyun saw the main formation at a glance and stood up with Feng and he. When the two stood still, the formation suddenly erupted with spiritual power, causing the surrounding lake water to form waves like undercurrents and soon formed a vortex around the two of them. As the water flow accelerates, the suction force of the vortex becomes stronger and stronger. What's amazing is that they are clearly stepping on solid underwater rocks, but it feels like people are about to be sucked into them. Feng and he was very nervous, and couldn't help but put his right hand into his arms. The scroll is in his arms. This is his declaration of return to his family. A moment later, the two of them were swallowed up by the underwater rocks, and a valley appeared in front of them. The valley is long and narrow, and only two people can pass side by side at the bottom of the valley. Looking up, you can't see the mountain tops on both sides. It's not that the mountain is high, it's that the clouds are dense. Even if Zuyun used the void-breaking spiritual eye technique, he could not see far. But fortunately, looking straight ahead, the fog seems to be nothing. As soon as he took a step, Feng and he stepped forward and held Zuyun tightly. Little brother, you can't even see this, don't walk around. Zuyun understood clearly and couldn't help but smile, just follow me. Just because you can't see me, doesn't mean I can't see you. Can you see? Can you really see? Feng and he was stunned for a moment, and then couldn't help but said ecstatically. Because as soon as he appeared here, he felt that there was no spiritual power everywhere. Not only that, the spiritual power in his body seemed to be imprisoned and he couldn't use it at all. Moreover, even if the two of them appeared here out of thin air, there was no turning back. Zuyun is his last life-saving straw now? You know, Zuyun pointed at his eyes and said, breaking the void spiritual eyes technique. That's it, that's it. Feng and he breathed a sigh of relief and followed Zuyun closely, walking along the valley. Not long after, there was a fork in the road ahead. Zuyun didn't hesitate and walked forward. Feng and he wanted to say that there are no signs here, how do you know this road, but when the words came to his lips, he swallowed them again, because as soon as he stopped, Zuyun was about to disappear into the mist. He quickly rubbed his toes in the center of the intersection a few times, and after making a mark, he quickly followed. In this way, following Zuyun's twists and turns, they never walked out for a full 12 hours. Every time he walks through an intersection, Feng and he will follow the same pattern and leave a footprint. Until, when Feng and he passed an intersection again, he found a familiar mark. It was the footprints he made after passing the first intersection. Little brother, wait for me. Feng and he felt cold for no reason. After walking for a whole day, why did he return to the original road? Was it Zuyun? Not necessarily. That means they are lost. We agreed that you would follow, why are you shouting again? Zuyun said goodbye, but still stopped and waited for Feng and he to follow. That's right, come here and take a look. Feng and he stood in the middle of the fork in the road, pointing at the footprints he left and said. You did it? Zuyun frowned. Yes, I did it. And we came from this direction. Feng and he points to the intersection on the left. Zuyun was slightly surprised and said, you can even recognize the direction. Feng An he scratched his head and said sheepishly, "Hey, in this unknown place, there are rumors that many powerful seniors have come here without any trace, so after I found the fork in the road, I started to mark it. Be careful with the wonder ship." Well. Zuyun was dumbfounded. In fact, he could naturally recognize the way out through the void-breaking spiritual eye technique. But the reason for this is that the spiritual world passage is like a maze. As long as he takes a wrong step, he will have to walk again. This is a formation with a fixed route. And the positive spirit eyes technique can see the route, so he doesn't need to make a mark at all. The most important thing is that after he stepped into this so-called spiritual world passage, he knew the name of this formation. Positive void maze. And the positive spirit eyes technique complements this positive void maze. In other words, the positive spirit eyes technique is derived from this positive void maze. In his mind, there is a very clear map. Or a maze map. Every intersection can lead to any intersection. But, you will never get out this way. There are 4 exits in the positive void maze. One is to return to the mortal world, and the other is to the spiritual world. As for the other 2, Zuyun didn't know, and didn't dare to try them randomly. If you go to some wonderful place and never come back, it will be troublesome. And there are no remains of living creatures in this broken void array. Maybe the great powers who came here before have lost contact, and it is very likely that they accidentally ran through the other 2 exits, so they are missing. We can reach the spirit world after walking for a while. Zuyun was also planning to leave, because he had walked through the entire broken void array, and he remembered every route in his heart. At the same time, he was secretly guessing in his heart that it was no wonder that there were few great powers in the spirit world who went to the mortal world, because of this broken void array. Yes, if the great powers in the spirit world could come to the mortal world at will, if they had bad intentions, I am afraid that the entire mortal world would be destroyed countless times. Really? That's great. Feng An he was overjoyed when he heard that he could reach the spirit world, and he no longer asked about his mark. Everything he did was just to go to the spirit world. Yes, follow me, and you will be there in half an hour at most. Zuyun smiled slightly and continued to move forward. Sure enough, half an hour later, Zuyun stopped, and the fog in the mountains also moved at this time, suddenly rushing towards the 2 of them. Previously, they were still shuttling in the fog, but at this time, the fog was like a substance, piling up towards the 2 of them, constantly squeezing their bodies. As the pressure grew, they also pressed back to back tightly together. Feng An he couldn't help but panic again. "Little brother, what's going on? It should be to teleport us out." Feng An he couldn't see it, but he could see that a teleportation array appeared out of thin air under his feet. This virtual array actually has some illusions. No wonder, without the virtual spiritual eye technique, it is impossible for a cultivator in the Peeper realm to go to the spirit world. And the reason why he stopped here was that he saw the array pattern, and the main array eye was also here. "Are you going to leave? But how long will it take?" Feng An he was unsure, fearing that he would not be able to hold on and would be crushed into a meat pie. He was worried about gains and losses, and was afraid of wolves in front and tigers behind. Zuyun was also under great pressure, but fortunately he could see that the formation was about to start. These clouds and mists were not squeezing them, but because the clouds and mists were the source of power that drove the formation. As long as all the array patterns were lit up, they could reach the spiritual world. After another moment, the array patterns finally lit up. With a whoosh in their ears, the 2 of them appeared in a completely new environment. Water. There was water all around. The 2 were caught off guard, and the water rushed into their noses and mouths. Salty. Zuyun was suddenly shocked. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 863. Zuyun quickly spit out all the water and then held his breath. When he looked at Feng Anhe again, he saw that his eyes were full of fear and he was looking in the direction of his back. He felt cold all over and quickly used the water escape technique. In an instant, he appeared behind Feng Anhe, and then he saw a huge black figure, with its bloody mouth open, biting him at the previous position. What a big monster! Zuyun was shocked. He had not removed the void-breaking spirit eye technique, so he could see the whole monster at a glance. It looks like a huge strange fish, with fangs exposed on the side of its mouth, each one as big as another person. Run, run! Zuyun grabbed Feng Anhe and swam upward crazily. But without the water escape technique, how could he be faster than this monster in the sea? He felt a huge suction coming from behind him, and Zuyun was extremely frightened. Die before reaching the spiritual world? The trump card is not used at this time, so when should we wait? Zuyun no longer hesitated, and as soon as his mind moved, blue light immediately bloomed in his lower abdomen. Water Ling Zhu. Under the influence of the water spirit bead, a huge bubble quickly formed with the two people at the center. The water around them is gone, and the suction to them is gone. But what Zuyun didn't expect was that the blue light that appeared would arouse the greed of the giant monster even more. Two red lights suddenly lit up, it was the eyes of the monster. No, all the bubbles will be swallowed. Zuyun was shocked, and before he had time to think about it, he frantically moved the water spirit bead. The blue light was even brighter and the bubbles were bigger, but at the same time, the monster couldn't hold back anymore and rushed towards this place. The water spirit bead has unique abilities in the water. Zuyun controls the bubbles through the water spirit bead. He is extremely fast and flexible, but he can only barely escape the attacks of this monster. He was somewhat stretched. It's so difficult under the breaking the void spiritual eyes technique. What if there is no breaking the void spiritual eyes technique? How do those monks really reach the spiritual world? After tasting the saltiness of the water here, Zuyun was extremely sure that this was in the sea. The spiritual world cannot be the water world. But that doesn't mean there is no sea in the spiritual world. He had no time to pay attention to Feng Anhe rolling around in the bubbles, and concentrated on controlling the bubbles to rise above the sea, with the monsters chasing after him. As it moved away from the bottom of the sea, the water gradually became brighter. Zuyun knew that it was not far from the sea, no more than 30 feet at most. When he was in the mortal world, he had been to the wild sea and knew that the light could only reach more than 20 feet at most. Quick, quick! He believed that as long as he flew out of the sea, he would be able to escape. Feng Anhe had already fallen unconscious, which would happen to him in the nascent soul stage. It was enough to imagine how powerful the monster beast behind him was in pursuit. Just when Zuyun raised his head and could see the swaying sea surface, countless turbulent waves of demonic energy suddenly appeared around him. He quickly separated his mind and poured out spiritual consciousness in all directions. He saw a scene that made his liver and gallbladder split. Monsters, countless monsters. Various forms, just to name a few. But they all have one thing in common, that is, their eyes are glowing red. Wherever the red light reaches, the target is the bubble he is in. What's going on, what's going on? Is our meat so delicious? Zuyun murmured, but he did not dare to relax at all. He knew that if he took one step slower, he would die in the sea and become the prey of these monsters. Call out! Call out! Call out! In my ears, these monster beasts were extremely fast. When they rushed towards me, they brought up bursts of bubbles, and even made the sound of air bursting. And every one of them almost has the realm of a demon king. So scary. Zuyun gritted his teeth and dodged the bubbles from the attacks of these monsters. Finally, A bowl-shaped depression appeared on the sea surface, and the bubbles had floated to the surface and merged with the air. Rise! Zuyun was overjoyed and grabbed Feng and he and flew towards the sky. But as soon as they left the sea, a huge coercion, like a palm falling from the sky, severely pushed the two of them into the water. Zuyun was horrified. He never thought that the spiritual power in the spiritual world was so rich that it would be difficult for him to fly as a nascent soul. In the mortal world, he can fly 100 steps in one breath. But according to the level of spiritual power he felt at this time, he could only fly 10 steps at most. This shows that the level of spiritual power in the spiritual world is 10 times that of the mortal world. How could this happen? Zuyun was unprepared, or he had never understood the environment and situation of the spiritual world at all. Why is the spiritual world a spiritual world? Why are there so many great powers? Or how can it be possible for those great powers to continue cultivating without the support of huge spiritual power? In a flash of lightning, Zuyun immediately figured out the key. But this is not a good time to delve into this situation. How to escape is the current problem. When Zuyun came out of the water spirit beads had been removed and the blue light disappeared. And when he fell into the water again and was about to control the water spirit pearl again, he suddenly discovered that those monsters turned a blind eye. There was no interest in the two of them at all. Instead, they kept running back and forth in the water, as if they were looking for something. Zuyun's eyes flashed, are they here for the water Lingzhu? With this thought, he immediately figured out the key. The water spirit pearl is a treasure of the water system, and may not be anything in the spiritual world, but these sea monsters are undoubtedly all of the water system, or mainly of the water system. Water Lingzhu is of great benefit to their cultivation. Because of this, after I didn't release the water spiritual power, they lost their target. Thinking of this, Zuyun felt a little relieved, but in order to confirm his guess, he made a thought and released a ball of spiritual power not far away. This sphere is formed by condensing the power of chaos. With Zuyun's current state, he can transform the power of chaos into the spiritual power he wants within a certain distance after leaving the body. He just wanted to test whether the water spiritual power caused these monster beasts to riot. He could control the sphere of spiritual power up to 100 steps away. After Zuyun reached this distance, his mind changed, and the sphere of chaos immediately turned into a sphere of water spiritual power. Call out! Call out! Call out! Countless monsters, like sharks smelling blood, rushed over one after another. In a moment, the position of the water spiritual power sphere was constantly impacting and biting. As expected, Zuyun looked at these crazy monsters with lingering fear. But soon, he regained his concentration, pulled up Feng and he, and slowly flew up. He is still a little unaccustomed to the pressure of spiritual energy here, so he must be cautious in sailing the 10,000-year boat. However, not long after flying, a figure suddenly appeared out of thin air. It was like teleportation, but Zuyun could feel it was not the case. It flew over at an extremely fast speed. Hey, two young monks at the nascent soul stage. The monk was dressed in green clothes, wearing a small hat, and had an ordinary face. But the feeling given to Zuyun was unfathomable. At this time, Feng and Yuya woke up and felt that there was no water power or demon power around them. He subconsciously asked, "Little brother, are we in the spirit world?" Hearing this, the monk laughed and said, "Who am I?" It turns out to be a young monk who came here from the mortal world. No wonder he fainted from being frightened by these monsters. I have met Senior. We are coming from the mortal world. We have just entered the spiritual world. May I ask Senior where this place is? Zuyun reacted very quickly. Facing a monk who couldn't even tell his realm, he could only act cautiously. After all, even if he wanted to run away at this time, it would probably be difficult. Where? Hey, of course it's the wild sea. The monk made an astonishing statement, pointing to the sea under his feet and said, apart from the sea, where else can there be so many demon cultivators? Zuyun was shocked. Wild sea? What does it have to do with the wild seas of the mortal world? He wanted to ask, but felt that it was not good to ask too many questions at this time. When you go out, talk less and do more. Thank you, senior. Zuyun quickly handed over his hand, winked at Feng and he, and planned to leave. Unexpectedly, when the two of them turned around, the monk suddenly reached out and pointed, and the two of them were immediately frozen in place. Senior! Zuyun screamed. Obviously he didn't feel any magic, but these two people couldn't move. This little old man seems to have the power of the wind. Tisk tisk, is he a branch of the Feng family in the mortal world? Yes, yes, it just happened to be tied up. Let's trade some spiritual stones with the Feng family. As soon as the words fell, the monk appeared in front of the two of them. Feng and he was originally frightened to death, but when he heard that he could go back to Feng's house, he was relieved. I believe that when I get to the Feng family, if I have a sword body, the Feng family will definitely use the spirit stone to redeem me. But as for Zuyun, he can't control much. Senior, I am a branch of the Feng family's mortal realm. He shouted quickly. The monk ignored it, turned to look at Zuyun, and said with a smile, Boy, are you a branch of the Tianweishan family's power again? Let me see, if I can exchange for something, I will send you back. Zuyun was still debating whether to say it was the Five Elements sect, but when he thought about the Five Elements sect, it was extremely unpleasant. What if this monk had a grudge against the Five Elements sect? Just as he was thinking this, he didn't expect that Feng and he would speak first in order to show off. Senior, he is a casual cultivator, how can he belong to any branch? Hearing this, the monk suddenly smiled ferociously and said, Rogue cultivator? Then he will die. After that, he waved his hand, trapped Zuyun's spiritual power, and squeezed towards Zuyun. Feng and he was stunned. He didn't expect that the monk would kill him as soon as he said so. And Zuyun's face turned ashen. He didn't expect the spiritual monks to be so unreasonable. What to do? He had no choice, so he roared, Senior, I am from the Five Elements sect. As soon as he finished speaking, the pressure around him suddenly disappeared. The monk had a stern expression and said coldly and ruthlessly, You said you are from the Five Elements sect. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 864. Feng'an and that hate, he didn't expect Zuyun to say that he was from the Five Elements sect. Don't you know how much the Five Elements sect is hated by people in the spiritual world? He behaves extremely domineeringly, but the key is that the people in the sect are extremely protective of his shortcomings. Otherwise, how could their sect be so powerful? Besides, where does the Five Elements sect have any branches? You are shooting yourself in the foot. Then the rocks bounced up and even hit my feet. Feng'an and Ziz were trembling, fearing that Zuyun would be implicated, but his whole body was controlled by spiritual power and he couldn't escape even if he wanted to. As for Zuyun, when he felt that the spiritual power that had imprisoned him disappeared, he suddenly felt happy. There was a way. So, he said seriously, Senior, I am actually not a disciple of the Five Elements sect, but the techniques I practice with the Five Elements sect are the same. Oh. The monk raised his eyebrows and said, Boy, do you know that those who pretend to be disciples of the Five Elements sect will die miserably? Zuyun said sternly, Senior, I don't understand. I heard in the mortal world that the Five Elements sect wants to accept disciples of the Five Spiritual Roots, and I am the Five Spiritual Roots. The monk was disdainful and said, Yes, the Five Elements sect is indeed a disciple of the Five Spiritual Roots, but it is a big taboo for you to say that you are a disciple of the Five Elements sect. Unless. Senior, Please speak clearly. Zhu Yun's appearance of neither being humble nor arrogant was actually just an act. He was very sure that this monk must be from the Five Elements sect. Otherwise, in this vast sea, this monk could kill himself without being discovered, so why didn't he do it? It can also be known from his previous words that this monk has no profit and cannot afford to stay early. Let Feng and he live, just to get some benefits from the Feng family. It is impossible for such a person to let himself go. Then just keep acting. Only those who have practiced the Five Elements sect can say that they are members of the Five Elements sect. Otherwise, you will die. As he spoke, the invisible spiritual pressure came to Zhu Yun again, and he was once again unable to move. Zhu Yun knew it clearly and said loudly, "Senior, what I practice is the Five Elements of Chaos Sutra." Hearing this, the monk couldn't help but be startled. He didn't expect that Zhu Yun could actually name the technique. You know, he is suspicious of Zhu Yun. Only the five spiritual roots can see the Five Elements of Chaos Sutra, which excludes people with other spiritual roots from knowing the existence of this technique. Secondly, the cultivation of the Five Elements of Chaos Sutra has progressed very slowly, and Zhu Yunzhengu is only 100 years old, but he has already reached nascent soul. This is what he suspected. And the reason why he came here is because Zhu Yun had just condensed the sphere of chaos, and the most refined and pure power of chaos was sensed by him, so he came here. However, after arriving here, the chaos force had long since dissipated, and he was nowhere to be found. He happened to meet Zhu Yun and Feng and he, and wanted to exchange them for some benefits. It was not a waste of time. But in the end, Zhu Yun actually practiced the Five Elements of Chaos Sutra? So, was he the one who released the chaos force just now? Boy, the monk removed the spiritual pressure from Zhu Yun's side again, with uncontrollable ecstasy on his face, and said, "The Five Elements Chaos Sutra is an unparalleled method of my Five Elements sect, and you came from the mortal world. Come on, how do you learn it?" Hearing such questions, Zhu Yun knew that he had nothing to worry about today. He glanced at Feng and he and said, "Senior, I don't know. There is a secret realm in the mortal world called the secret realm of the Book of Heaven. The boy accidentally entered it and got among them, the heavenly book. I learned the exercises in the heavenly book. And the heavenly book is the Five Elements of Chaos Sutra." After saying that, he winked at Feng and he, signaling him to stop being in the limelight, lest he cause trouble. "Ha ha ha, the secret realm of the heavenly book? Yes, my Five Elements of Chaos Sutra can naturally be called the heavenly book. Anyone who practices the Five Elements of Chaos Sutra will one day be able to ascend to the upper realm. This is also the reason why our Five Elements sect is so powerful." Zhu Yun's words made the monk laugh out loud. Then, he suddenly stepped forward and put his hands on Zhu Yun very affectionately. He said, "Boy, who is your name? I would like to let you be yours guide. I can let you join the Five Elements sect." Zhu Yun heard the word guide again, but he couldn't help but think of the previous guide, Zhang Tianyuan, who led him into the Lingjian sect and embarked on the path to immortality. Just comparing the two, this monk is not even a bit worse. Obviously, what he wants is to exchange himself for some rewards as a guide. But Zhang Tianyuan was completely different at that time. "Yes, yes." Zhu Yun recovered his emotions and pretended to be ecstatic. "Ha ha ha, yes, yes. In this way, I have a reason to leave this wretched place. If I stay here, I will feel like a bird in my mouth." The monk was overjoyed and said, "Boy, I will take you to the sect and I will ask you to fill out the application. Remember my name. My surname is Tu, and it is a single word. Painted." Zhu Yun thought the name was unpleasant. "Well, paint it?" Tu Chen nodded and said, "But in the future, you can't call me by my name. After all, I am in the stage of becoming a god, and I am a deacon stationed in the wild sea. You must remember to call me deacon too." After saying that, he patted Zuyun on the shoulder and said, "Boy, you are not used to the spiritual world for the first time, aren't you? The pressure of spiritual energy here is more than 10 times that of the ordinary world. Come on, take a pill, can protect you from worries for a year." After saying that, he carefully took out a pill and stuffed it into Zuyun's hand. "What kind of elixir is this that is so magical?" Zuyun looked at it for a moment. Looking at the color and the scent of the medicine, he found that it was somewhat similar to the 5 spirit pills. "Well, I don't know what kind of elixir it is. It is distributed by the sect to help with cultivation. However, it is only effective for our disciples of the 5 elements section. The rest of the forces will either die or be injured after swallowing it, he." As he spoke, he looked at Feng and He beside him, full of sarcasm. "I don't know if I told Feng and He on purpose." Sure enough, Feng and He put away his envious expression. To be honest, he has a single wind spirit root, so he can feel the difference in spiritual power here. "Let's go, I'll take you to Feng's house for a meal." Tu Cheng chuckled, as if he and Zuyun had known each other for many years. But Zuyun knew that it was all because he could bring benefits to Tu Cheng. "Deacon 2, is there any happy event for the Feng family? Also, we are going to eat, do you want to prepare some gifts?" After Zuyun knew that he was safe, he tried his best to inquire about the spiritual world from Tu Cheng. "Otherwise, if you enter the 5 elements sect with a black eye, who knows whether it is a good thing or a bad thing? After all, something happened to the 5 elements Chaos Sutra he was practicing, and no one could guarantee what would happen next." However, rashly asking about the 5 elements sect would inevitably make Tu Cheng suspicious, so he planned to make some insinuations and start with the Feng family, which would also allow Feng and He to learn more about his family. "I heard that they had some happy event. They hosted a banquet for all the forces in Tianweishan. I don't know if our 5 elements sect has received the invitation. But it's just a courtesy. Isn't this enough?" He pursed his lips towards Feng and He. Feng and He was a little confused. "Why did I become Li?" "Hey," Zuyun continued to ask, "Deacon 2, didn't you say you wanted to exchange him for spiritual stones? Why did you give him as a gift again?" "Are you stupid?" Tu Chengdu was amused and said with a smile, "I gave you a gift, so of course you have to give a gift in return. If you really want to trade him with the Feng family for spiritual stones, it would be too low a price. Besides, at this time, everything is different in the world. Big forces are gathered together, and it is said that there are also demon cultivators who are not yet born in this world. It just so happens that I can show you the world. By the time you join the sect, you will have the ability to brag." Zuyun was dumbfounded. He didn't expect this to be the reason. After swallowing the elixir, Zuyun really couldn't feel the pressure of spiritual energy in the air. Tu Cheng also deliberately slowed down, and with Feng and he flew for about 12 hours, and finally flew to the shore. "See, that's the end of the world." On the beach, Tu Cheng pointed in the direction of the setting sun and said with a smile. Zuyun followed his finger and looked over, and couldn't help being shocked. "I saw a mountain and river floating in the sky at an unknown distance on the horizon. The sky is beyond the sky, worthy of this name. Deacon 2, are we going to fly there?" Zuyun asked in shock, but his mind was full of thoughts. If such a huge mountain could be made to float in the air by a formation, what a shocking miracle it would be. Of course he flies over, because he is really out of the sky. Tu Cheng was in a great mood and patiently answered Zuyun's questions. He added one more sentence and said, "However, the demon clan in Tianweishan is called Kunlun Mountain. So, Tianweishan is also called Kunlun Tianweishan. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills." Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 865. Then who made Kunlun Mountain float in the sky of the spiritual world? Zuyun asked in shock. I don't know about this. Anyway, when our Five Elements sect was founded, Tianwei existed. Tu Cheng said with an indifferent expression, but the sky outside the sky is nothing to our Five Elements sect. The sky has 5 elements, the earth has 5 elements, and humans have 5 elements. Everything in the world has 5 elements. Zuyun knew what Tu Cheng meant. He was basically the boss of Tian, the second boss of earth, and the third boss of 5 elements sect. Arrogant indeed. Zuyun cursed in his heart and took advantage of the situation to ask the 5 elements sect. On the way to Tianwei, Zuyun also asked many questions about the 5 elements sect. These issues are not secrets, and Tu Cheng does not shy away from Feng and He behind him. According to legend, the 5 elements sect was founded by immortals who descended from the immortal world. As for why the immortal descended to earth, that is unknown. According to the records of the sect's classics, the immortal who took pity on the mortals with 5 spiritual roots would be rejected by the immortal sect, so he founded the sect with the aim of cultivating immortals for all living beings in the world. This actually has the same meaning as the preface to the 5 Elements of Chaos Sutra exercise method. But Zuyun always felt that this was probably a conspiracy, so he came up with the idea of going to the 5 Elements sect to find out. However, it was more or less an accident. Who would have thought that as soon as he arrived in the spirit world, he would meet someone from the 5 Elements sect? That's fine. If I hit it right, maybe no one will doubt my purpose of joining the 5 Elements section. Zuyun secretly thought. The rest of the information is all about the major events that have happened in the 5 Elements sect in recent years, as well as the layout and rules within the sect. The better Zuyun performs, the more rewards Tu Cheng will receive in the future. Disciples of the 5 Elements sect practice step by step, and their resources are basically rationed. If you want to have extra income, you can only start elsewhere. For example, finding new people to join the sect, or finding a new way like Tu Cheng to join in the fun at the Feng family. The 5 Elements sect is divided into outer hall and inner hall. The outer hall is the 5 halls of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. In fact, there is no difference between these 5 halls, except for ease of management. Tu Cheng said that the biggest thing that happened to their 5 Elements sect recently was that something unexpected happened to one of the disciples while they were practicing in the Holy Land. All the disciples, except for the responsible steward, were killed and injured, which made the sect leader very sad. It's wrath. That's why he was so excited after learning that Zuyun had practiced the 5 Elements of Chaos Sutra. Because the sect needs to replenish manpower as soon as possible. For people like Zuyun, he was in the nascent soul stage when he came, and his rewards were extremely rich, so he was willing to give Zuyun a 5 spiritual pill. He also wanted to do good things as soon as possible and take Zuyun back to the sect. Zuyun asked strangely, Deacon 2, our 5 Elements sect is so powerful, how could anyone enter the Holy Land and attack us secretly? As early as in the mortal world, Zuyun suspected that the 5 Elements sect had a fragment of the immortal mansion. But after hearing what he said, this idea was eliminated. Are you kidding? If there are fragments of the immortal mansion like myself, how could anyone get in? I don't know about this anymore. I haven't been in for a long time. Tu Cheng shrugged and said, I also heard the news from the sect, and this happened not long ago. After you join the sect, don't rush to ask to go to the Holy Land, so as not to cause the sect master's displeasure. If you are punished, that's all. If you implicate me, I won't be polite to you. You speak so plainly. Zuyun was angry and laughing in his heart, but he still secretly made a note to talk about the matter of the Holy Land when the time comes. However, now that he is in the spirit world, he still has to find a chance to break through to the divine stage. But before that, he still needed to understand as soon as possible what other people's breakthroughs were like. After thinking about it, Zuyun turned his attention to Tu Cheng. Isn't this a ready-made divine transformation stage? His eyes lit up, and he quickly said, I remember what Deacon 2 said. But Deacon 2, if I don't go to the Holy Land to practice, then when will I be able to break through to the stage of divine transformation? The divine transformation stage? Why are you anxious? As long as you keep practicing, the divine transformation stage will come naturally. Not getting any useful information, Zuyun was naturally unwilling to give in and continued to ask, Deacon 2, I heard that the divine transformation stage will lead to catastrophe, can you please impart some experience? After all, the sooner I break through the divine transformation stage, the better. It's better for you too. That's true, Tu Cheng chuckled, turned around, and said, the transformation stage will indeed cause heavenly tribulations, but with our 5 spiritual roots, cultivation and extremely balanced spiritual power in our bodies, it is still easy to withstand the heavenly tribulations. But what needs to be noted is that the nascent soul within the body must be protected. It doesn't matter if the body is destroyed, the nascent soul must maintain the balance of the 5 colors. I know, I know. Zuyun kept saying yes, but he was completely sure in his heart that the chaos lotus he cultivated was completely different from others. They are 5-color nascent soul, but I am 5-color chaos lotus. His eyes flashed, and he added, then the body is destroyed, isn't the 5-color nascent soul exposed to the catastrophe? What are you afraid of? Tu Cheng smiled and said, our 5 elements of Chaos Sutra is called the Book of Heaven. The Immortal also said in the book that you can cultivate to the point of ascension. As long as there are no major accidents, you can naturally survive the heavenly tribulation safely. The body is ruined, you let the chaos power in your body condense your body. No more than 9 heavenly tribulations, although one is stronger than the other, but you have no fear in your heart, and you can naturally cope with it easily. Think of me, you were able to withstand the heavenly tribulation for 9 days and 9 nights, and you were successful. Breakthrough. Speaking of which, the painting is full of pride. Zuyun's expression changed and he said, Senior, is it better to overcome the catastrophe as quickly as possible, or as long as it lasts? Naturally, the longer the better, Tu Cheng said seriously, but 9 days and 9 nights are not long, because the thunder striking our bodies is actually tempering our bodies, making our bodies stronger. Otherwise, it will be difficult to adapt to this place. The spiritual energy pressure. This is why you need to take that elixir. Do you know what the name of this elixir is? Zuyun pretended not to know and shook his head. Chaos pill. Tu Cheng said, I heard from the elders of the sect that the chaos pill requires extremely strong alchemy techniques. It is extremely difficult to refine 5 single attribute elixirs of the same grade and the same year. It's like I gave the pill you took is just a low-level chaos pill, so it can only protect you for 1 year. Boy, this is great luck for you. You must know that the sect will not give you this pill under transformation. Medicinal. Thank you so much to Deacon 2. I will never forget Deacon 2's kindness. Zuyun said deliberately, but in fact, he already knew that this was the 5 spirit pills, and he had some thoughts in his heart. If he shows his alchemy skills within the sect, he might be able to gain a firm foothold. To put it bluntly, the spiritual world is nothing more than an upgraded mortal world. If I can reflect my value, I think I can hide it better within the sect and it will be safer. The only thing he is worried about now is that when he breaks through the divine transformation stage, the chaos lotus in his body will be exposed. According to those immortal elixirs, chaos lotus is the top elixir in the immortal world. Perhaps the sect inherited by this immortal will recognize it, which will be very detrimental to itself. Now, he had no choice but to follow Tu Cheng to the 5 elements section. He could only try his best to ensure his own safety there. But before that, he had to go to Tianyi. After getting the news they wanted, it took them nearly half a month to fly to the sky and to the foot of Kunlun Mountain. This shows how far away the outer sky is. Okay, Kunlun Mountain has so many powerful forces that it's inconvenient to take this little old man with you, so let's just walk up there. Fortunately, the Feng family is in Sword Valley, so it's not too far away. Tu Cheng untied Feng Anhe's body, with a hint of threat on his face, and said, "Little old man, you can walk alone, but don't run around. I will take you back to my home, you don't make any mistakes, otherwise I won't be rude." Feng An and Xianxia didn't dare to speak out. They took a deep look at Zuyun and quickly withdrew their gaze. Zuyun vaguely guessed what Feng Anhe was thinking, and at the same time he also knew that when things were over, he and Feng Anhe would be parted ways. Then he also said aloud, "Friend Feng Dao, we have gone through ups and downs and come to the spiritual world together. It is a happy event for you to return to your family. This is a reminder to Feng Anhe that it's the last moment, so don't ruin his good deeds. What little brother said is that although we are not close friends, we came to the spirit world together, and we have indeed inherited a lot of kindness from little brother. Feng Anhe would like to thank you in advance." Feng Anhe also knew the meaning of Zuyun's words, but as he got closer to the Feng family, he became even more excited. Although Zuyun's words were not spoken, he took them all to heart, but he would not intentionally cause harm. But when they just climbed up the steps, several more figures appeared behind them. Their spiritual power was restrained, and their bodies were shrouded in black robes. Tu Cheng turned around, frowned, and said, "Nine Netherland, people from the Demon Moon sect. Warm reminder, if you find that clicking the next page will force you to jump to other websites, please use the chapter error or contact us at the bottom to inform us. We will handle it as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 866. 5 Elements Sect. This is the outer world, you can't control anything about us, right? The leading man in black robe spoke dissatisfiedly, but it was a clear female voice. Covered in black robes, it was impossible to see the men and women clearly. He, I have no time to care about you. It's just you walking behind me that makes me feel uncomfortable. Get away. If you are within 100 steps of me, don't blame me for being rude. Overbearing, what does it mean to be overbearing? This is true dominance. You. The female cultivator was immediately angry and was about to argue, but she was pulled back by her companion behind her. A deep male voice came, "Junior sister, we are here to do business at the Feng family. Don't cause trouble. Senior brother, these people from the 5 Elements sect are. Be careful." The other person also spoke hurriedly, but the junior sister had no choice but to swallow her anger. But through the black robe, Zuyundu felt an endless murderous intent. Perhaps, it was only at his nascent soul stage that he felt murderous intent, as if painted, he looked like a normal person. "Hey, Feng family." Tu Cheng smiled meaningfully, waved to Zuyun and said, "Little guy, let's go." Zuyun and Feng Anhe walked side by side. It was not until they walked up 100 stone steps that the 3 people from the Demon Moon sect took a step forward. But they never thought that just as they were about to take the second step, Tu Cheng deliberately stopped, turned around, shook his index finger and said quietly, 100 steps. With such an expression of wanting to be beaten, Zuyun almost couldn't help but take action. "It's too much." The female cultivator yelled again. If the 2 people behind her hadn't pulled her, she might have really become violent. "Tisk, tisk," Tu Cheng said with a bad smile, "come on, hit me if you can." "Painted, that's enough." At this time, one of the male cultivators suddenly spoke. "Huh? You know me?" Tu Cheng was a little surprised, but then he smiled and said, there are so many people who know me. It's enough if you say enough, how shameless do you think I am? After that, he wielded a golden sword and stood on the steps with his hands on his waist, condescending, not afraid that the three people from the Demon Moon sect would take action. Painted. The male cultivator shouted, "We are attending the Feng family banquet, and the auspicious time is coming soon. If you delay our Moyo sect's affairs, aren't you afraid of offending the Feng family and making Tianweishan angry?" With this big hat on, in normal times, Tu Cheng would still retreat 3 points. But at this time, he laughed and said, "Sorry, I am also going to attend the Feng family's wedding banquet. Did you see that there is a descendant of the Feng family following me?" After saying that, he laughed and turned around, pulling Feng and he to continue upward. Zuyun was left stunned for a while. "Hey, kid, why don't you follow me? I'll take it out on you later when the Demon Moon sect can't help you." Zuyun was startled and quickly followed him. In fact, when he heard about Mou sect, he couldn't help but think of Mou Lin, and at the same time he thought of Zhang Feng. The master of the Beast Pet Pavilion said before he died that he was from the Demon Moon sect. At that time, Zuyun thought that the Demon Moon sect was a sect in the Yasha realm, and wondered how the Demon Moon sect's methods could be so powerful. But later I found out that Mou sect is actually a sect in the spiritual world. However, after Zhang Feng died, nothing happened, and Zuyun forgot about Mou sect. Now that I hear it again, I will inevitably have some thoughts in my mind. What's more, what kind of energy does the Feng family have to allow people from the Demon Moon sect to come from Juyulan to Tianwai to attend the wedding banquet? Whether it was an invitation from the Feng family or an initiative from the Demon Moon sect, it could mean something. And the most important thing is that it is painted with arrogance. A leopard can be seen in a tube. From Tu Cheng's body, you can completely see the energy of the Five Elements sect. I hope I won't be assimilated by these people. Zuyun quickly followed Tu Cheng, but then Tu Cheng did not continue to cause trouble and deliberately tested the bottom line of these people. Perhaps after going deep into Tianweishan, there will be more power. There were 3 people in the group, and their pace was not slow. Tu Cheng said that the wedding banquet was about to begin in one day. As for what the happy event was, Tu Cheng didn't say, and Zuyun didn't dare to ask. However, it took a whole day to walk, and Zuyun couldn't help but sigh again, how big the sky is. At this time, the news left by Zuyun also spread throughout the mortal world. Almost all the surviving monks were grateful to Zuyun. Some casual cultivators actually erected a statue for Zuyun. In their words, walking in the mortal world is like walking on thin ice. Not only are there a lack of cultivation resources, but they also have to worry about their lives all the time. But after the battle in the East Sheng realm, Zuyun not only united all the races, but also broke the barriers of the 3 realms, allowing them to circulate. As a result, there are more resources for cultivation, and some originally cherished elixirs are no longer rare items and are sold at sky-high prices. With the lessons learned from Yasha realm and Peepa realm, some brokerage firms have also tasted the benefits and circulated all the specialties from various places. Even casual cultivators can become immortals. All of this was brought about by Zuyun. In addition to Yunzhou, the other 17 states in the Ya realm also benefited. Although you still cannot break through the nascent soul stage in the Ya realm, you will not encounter any danger when going to the other 3 realms from the Ya realm. With so many people leaving, the news naturally spread throughout the mortal world. More and more monks began to follow suit and erected statues of Zuyun. Those sects also followed the wave of enthusiasm and thought it was harmless. Of course, Zuyun did make great contributions to the mortal world. All this was something Zuyun had never expected. At the same time, the 7 Stars sect, De Go and Ergo accepted the news that Zuyun left without saying goodbye. Or rather, they were not surprised at all. Because it was absolutely impossible for them to keep up with Zuyun's pace. Going to the spirit world together would only slow down Zuyun's pace. Apart from anything else, it might take hundreds of years just to wait for them in the mortal world. Maybe, with Zuyun's ability, after hundreds of years, he would have achieved the Great Way and ascended to become an immortal. They also had a plan for cultivation and found Mengwei. Young Palace Master, shall we accompany Go to Yoluo City? De Go said to Mengwei. Yoluo City. Mengwei put away a piece of paper in a panic. With her late nascent soul stage, she didn't even notice the arrival of the two people, which shows how absorbed she was. De Go knew that Mengwei still couldn't accept the fact that Zuyun suddenly left her behind. The content of his letter and Go's letter was the same. But Mengwei must be different. Because before, Mengwei told them that Zuyun would stay and go to the spirit world with them. But not long after, Zuyun suddenly changed his mind. Yes, young Palace Master, let's go together. Senior Luo must want to see you too. De Go actually wanted to divert Mengwei's attention. Moreover, he was a sword cultivator, and it didn't matter where he practiced. Go had to go to the Yoluo demon sect. Mengwei also knew this. Then, let's go. Originally, she wanted to follow Zuyun's footsteps and break through the spirit world passage. But in the letter, Zuyun apologized to her in a very sincere tone, and then asked her to take care of De Go and Go. She had already decided in her heart that she would go to the spirit world with De Go and Go. Then he went to find Zuyun and told him in person, Zuyun, you have betrayed me. The three of them first found Yesuanhua, said goodbye to him, and then set out on the road to Yasha realm. It was more than 100,000 miles across the entire Peepa realm. Fortunately, Mengwei took care of the two of them and personally took them to fly, so the speed was much faster. We are almost there. In the outer world, Tu Cheng took Zuyun and the other two and finally arrived at a valley. Further down is the Sword Valley, the ancestral land of the Feng family. Little old man, don't make any mistakes. Listen to my command later, otherwise you will ruin my good deeds, and I can only turn the red wedding into a white wedding. Tu Cheng said, and then he waved his hand, and another invisible force sealed Feng Anhe's mouth. Fortunately, he was close to his family, and Feng Anhe was much more stable. Along the way, he knew that Tu Cheng really wanted to exchange him for something, and he knew Tu Cheng's character even more. Of course, he hoped that Tu Cheng would take Zuyun away earlier, after all. The Huatian scroll in his arms and Sun Qiniang in the Huatian scroll were his token of surrender to his family. He didn't want Zuyun to know. The mountain road leading to the bottom of the valley became wider and more crowded as he went down. These cultivators had different cultivations and different clothes. But everyone had a festive look on their faces. I didn't know if it was true or not. Following the crowd, they finally reached the bottom of the valley and saw a magnificent and ancient building complex. At the gate, there were countless people wearing uniform clothes, and they were extremely respectful. Some were accepting gifts, some were registering, and some were leading the way. Zuyun was also infected by this festive look, and he couldn't help wondering if it was a wedding banquet or some other happy event. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 867. The closer you get to the gate, the more concentrated the crowd becomes. At this moment, no matter what level of cultivation the monks were, they all felt that they were lining up. Just Come and Paint is no exception. Among the team, Tu Cheng was at the front, Feng Anhe was in the middle, and Zuyun was at the end. Soon, it was their turn. How many distinguished guests are there? A welcoming disciple greeted the guests with a smile. Zuyun looked and saw that he was actually a monk in the late nascent soul stage. The Feng family looked down upon Tu Cheng, but Yuan Yingqi was just a gatekeeper. That 5 elements section. How powerful must it be? While he was thinking about it, Tu Cheng chuckled and said, You too. Both of you. The nascent soul stage was a bit puzzling, but it was not surprising to see many people. It was like the spiritual world, which was really 3,000 avenues, with capable people. There are puppets, incarnations, corpse refining, and even methods they have never heard of. Like Feng and he thought Tu Cheng had some mysterious means to bring such a living, inhuman person with him. What do you call me, senior? Please come here to register. Then the head of the family can thank you and return the gift. Nascent Soul Chi said very politely. He, my surname is Tu, which is one Chinese character. I come from the Five Elements sect. As soon as these words came out, Zuyun felt that the air was stagnant. He even saw the nascent soul stage and his legs were trembling. The Five Elements sect actually came to the Feng family. They didn't invite me. Those who come are not good, and those who are good will not come. Tuesday. Senior 2, I don't know why you come to my Feng family, why? I'm afraid of returning, but I still have to do what I need to do. This nascent soul stage gives me courage, thinking that with so many people, this painting shouldn't cause chaos, right? Hey, it's the Feng family's wedding banquet. Although I'm here uninvited, I'm also here to congratulate you with gifts. If you can't make the decision, call someone who can. Tu Cheng pinched his nose and said with an indifferent expression. This. When nascent soul saw that his hands were empty, he felt unsure. Although monks in the spiritual world don't have a storage ring in their hands, they are pretty much the same. The most important thing is that in order to show respect for the host, they will put the gifts in their hands early. What is this? I also came here in line and didn't cause any trouble. Painted in a careless manner, how does he look like a god-transforming monk? He looks like a street gangster. Besides, I also brought a gift. After that, he pulled casually, and Feng and he was staggeringly pulled in front of the nascent soul stage. No, why don't you remember the congratulations first? For a moment, everyone was confused. Where can I give gifts to others? If he really had one, he would have given it to some beautiful female nuns and hidden it away. But if you send an old male cultivator, what's going on? Tu Cheng still had a smile on his face and said, Boy, let me tell you clearly, you can't make the decision in this matter, so let your family head do it. I will pick up a branch of the Feng family for you later. It's so far away from us. By sending you to the wild sea, I have given you the Feng family a lot of face. Otherwise, according to my temper, killing someone in the nascent soul stage is just a matter of course. This is true. In front of the transformation stage, the nascent soul stage is like an ant. Whether or not you survive the catastrophe is the biggest difference. It's not just as simple as a big difference. Descendants of the Feng family. Wild seas. This is from the mortal world. Everyone's eyes suddenly lit up and they started whispering. No monk has come up to the mortal passage on the other side of the wild sea for a long time. Hey, fellow Taoists, Tu Cheng laughed strangely again, pretending to bow to the four directions, and said, there are four mortal realms in the southeast, northwest, and southeast. The corresponding eastern mortal realm here in the wild sea area has no human race in the past 100 years. The monk is here. Is this good news? Upon hearing this, Zuyun couldn't help but be slightly startled. According to what Tu Cheng said, there are actually four in the mortal world. Thinking of this, Zuyun became suspicious again. The news I heard earlier was that the passage between Peepa realm and Dongsheng realm leads directly to Tianwai Tian. But he came from the wild sea. But one thing can be said, that is, no human monks have come up in the past 100 years. This is because something happened to the Lin family, the family that leads the way. Will the cliff of that day go directly to Tianwaishan? While Zuyun was thinking, Tu Cheng said again, this little old man may know what happened in the Dongfan realm. Can you tell me, is it a big gift for Tu to take him and give it to the Feng family? The implication is that Feng and he can let them understand what happened in the mortal world and why no monks from the human race have come up for hundreds of years. However, Tu Cheng concealed that Zhu Yun came with Feng and he. It's no wonder that he sealed Feng and he's mouth. This was the reason. Thinking further, Zhu Yun guessed something more. It may not be that easy to go from the spiritual world to the mortal world. In this way, I felt a lot more relaxed. But, there are actually 4 in the mortal world? Forget it, of course it's a big gift. At this time, an old but rich voice suddenly came from inside the Feng family. I saw a sword light appearing out of thin air, landing in front of Feng and he, and quickly transformed into an old man with white eyebrows and beard, who almost wanted to mop the floor. The old man has kind eyebrows and kind eyes, and has an immortal demeanor. He looks like a hidden power. Zhu Yun couldn't help but take another look, but his mouth was opened in shock. The old man's pupils turned out to be 2 small black swords. Ha ha ha, Master Feng, I'm afraid your sword eyes will scare the children. Tu Cheng also sensed that Zhu Yun was uncomfortable, so he spoke to help him out. Deacon Tu has come a long way, but Feng is not expecting you from afar. I wonder if your sect leader is okay. Okay, great. Tu Cheng smiled. It was clear that Master Feng's status far surpassed that of Tu Cheng, but he was not afraid at all. Master Feng, people in the Ming dynasty don't tell secrets. Tu is not interested in eating, so he plans to return to the sect after sending a congratulatory gift. This is a thank you gift. Before Tu Cheng could finish speaking, Sect Master Feng laughed, his eyebrows and beard trembled at the same time, but he exuded countless sword intentions. It's easy to say, easy to say. My Feng family doesn't have many other things, it just has a lot of spiritual stones. Come, I'll give you 88,888 spiritual stones. Zhu Yun came back to his senses, his heart full of disdain. Is this a bit of spiritual stone considered grand? Deacon Tu, is this kid next to you too young? Sect Master Feng seemed to be able to read minds. These words made Zhu Yun's face change greatly. Hey, spiritual stones, who thinks it's too much? But Master Feng, the descendants of the Feng family are worth the price, it's fair. Tu Cheng extended a thumb to help Zhu Yun clear the situation, but then the topic changed and he said, but, the first person to come up to the East Mortal Realm in 100 years is probably worth the price, right? Even if it doubled again, Zhu Yun wouldn't feel that there were many spiritual stones, but at this time he didn't dare to have any thoughts in his heart. This Feng sect master was too terrifying. The cultivation level is at least above the transformation stage, and it is not impossible to reach the Mahayana stage. It's natural. Master Feng's face also became serious, and Zhu Yun also understood that the purpose of the previous painting was to show off to the monks, just to make the lion open his mouth. For good luck, 188,888 spiritual stones. Come on, we are all ready. After the words fell, there was another sword light, and a ring was respectfully presented to Sect Master Feng's hand. Hey, Master Feng is so awesome. Tu Cheng was not polite and extended his hand to Sect Master Feng. Slow. Master Feng held the ring between his 2 fingers and said calmly, you say that this is the number 1 person in the East Mortal Realm, and you also say that he is a descendant of my Feng family. How can you prove it? As he spoke, he put a trace of spiritual thought into the ring. In an instant, the ring flashed with white light and poured out a piece of spiritual stone. The implication is that it is your own spiritual stone that can be used to test whether it is true or false. But Feng and he also wants to verify the authenticity. After a while, the spiritual stones piled up into a small mountain, filled with a dense purple aura. Incomparably rich spiritual power, no matter how good the monk is, he can't hide a trace of greed. And Zhu Yun couldn't help but open his mouth wide. These spiritual stones are actually at least 10 times richer in spiritual power than his spiritual stones in the mortal world. While he was shocked, Tu Cheng also knew what Master Feng meant, but since he had arrived at the Feng family, he was naturally well prepared. Hey, Lord Feng, the wind spirit power in this little old man is extremely pure and cannot be faked. Like us, we have to use the root-seeking stone to confirm whether he has single-line wind spirit roots. You, the Feng family, can definitely recognize it directly. Bar. Then, his tone also took on a threatening tone. Besides, wouldn't you just ask him if he is a monk from the East Mortal realm? Feng and he is not stupid. He saw the situation clearly. As long as he doesn't admit that he is from the East Mortal realm, Tu Cheng will most likely sell him to other monks. Because sometimes no evidence is needed. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 868. Master Feng, please. As Tu Cheng spoke, he released the seal on Feng and he. For a moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Feng and he. Descendants of the Feng family, sect leader Feng seemed not to be affected by Tu Cheng, but asked calmly, "Why don't you abide by the precepts of your ancestors?" Everyone was stunned when they heard this question. Don't abide by the ancestral precepts? Is it possible that we need to hear the secrets of the Feng family? The Feng family is not a first-class family in Tianweishan, but it is still quite powerful. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many monks coming here to attend their wedding banquet. Family, patriarch, Feng and he seemed to be affected by the sword pupil. He knelt down on the ground and said tremblingly, "This junior has completed the ancestral precepts." Oh! A strange look flashed in sect leader Feng's eyes, and then he stepped forward to help him up personally, but an imperceptible smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Since the ancestral teachings have been completed, you can live freely in the mortal world. Why do you still come to this family? Is it possible that you, a branch of the clan, still want to become a direct descendant of the Feng family? As soon as these words came out, Tu's face changed. He originally wanted to take a step forward and recapture Feng and he, but when he thought about Master Feng's cultivation level, his efforts were somewhat halted. Sect Master Feng may not dare to attack him, but he can prevent him from taking Feng and he back. He could even silence Feng and he. And Feng and he's face was even more ugly. Because sect leader Feng's answer was completely different from what was recorded in his ancestral training. Doesn't it mean that we should guard the Sky Fire Dragon well and prevent him from doing evil? Why? Feng and he was also a little confused, while Zuyun frowned. He is not worried about Feng and he is worried about himself. Because Tu Cheng has already marked himself. He is from the Five Elements sect. If these people really attack in groups and want to kill people and silence them, can he escape with his life? These monks did not hide their aura. What Zuyun could feel was only a few nascent soul stages. The rest were beyond his realm, and he could only judge them by the strength of their breath. But he also knows that judgment is not accurate. Tell me, why did you come to the Feng family? Sect Master Feng suddenly shouted loudly, causing everyone to look over again. The painted face was ugly again, and he said coldly, "Master Feng, since you are sure that this is a descendant of the Feng family, and you are sure that he is from the East Mortal realm, then I can take away this spiritual stone." Now, he just wants to get away. Deacon Tu, who knew that sect leader Feng, suddenly smiled and said, "This descendant of the Feng family is real, and he is indeed from the East Mortal realm. But if you want to say that he is a great gift, it is really almost meaningless. This person, who wants it, who takes it?" After saying that, he actually took the lead and took all the spirit stones back into the ring. Before Tu Cheng could react, he raised his hands to the monks and smiled again, "You guys are laughing. It's true that the Feng family has ancestral precepts, and our family is not allowed to interfere with the branches of the mortal world. Everyone was speechless, but their eyes kept looking at Feng and he, wishing they could exchange the spirit stones with Tu Cheng. But in their eyes, the Eastern mortal realm is not worth so many spirit stones, not to mention, they don't take so many spirit stones out. For a moment, the atmosphere here became a little tense. Just when Tu Cheng was about to bring Feng and he back and had the idea of making a deal with other monks, Feng and he gritted his teeth and loudly said to Sect Master Feng, "Master, when I return to my family, I will actually bring you the sword body. As a member of the Feng family, you must be loyal and filial." Feng and he didn't know what effect the sword had on the spiritual world. But I know that with the sword body, the Feng family's strength can definitely be improved to a higher level. He is also a sword refiner, and his whole cultivation is devoted to sword refinement. It's just that his cultivation is not enough and his attainments are not enough. There is no way to turn the sword body into a peerless weapon. As soon as these words came out, Master Feng suddenly froze and looked over in disbelief. "What did you say? Did you bring a sword?" Not only him, but Zuyun was also horrified. Zuyun didn't know about Sun Qiniang, but Feng and he said that he had a sword body. Is it possible that Feng and he wants to use himself as a proxy? Sword body, sword refining sect, Master Feng's expression. Let Zuyun know that the sword body is definitely not a good thing. Run. Immediately, Zuyun left without any hesitation. After taking the 5 spirit pills, he was no longer affected by the spiritual power here. Not even Tu Cheng could react to this sudden change. Feng and he was also stunned for a moment. He was simply afraid that Zuyun would see Sun Qiniang and form a deadly feud with him. Unexpectedly, Zuyun ran away by himself. After thinking about it carefully, he realized the reason. Zuyun must have thought that he was a sword body. But it didn't matter if he ran away, he simply took out the scroll and presented it respectfully. The person with the sword body is in the painting. The golden spirit root alone is just a puppet. I don't know if it will have any impact. These words fell into the ears of everyone. They knew there was no hope and simply gave up the idea of fighting for Feng and he. The most troubling thing is to finish it. I want to chase Zuyun, but I am still thinking about the more than 180,000 spirit stones. Seeing Feng and himself actually turning the situation around, they also made a decision. After getting the spirit stone, go after Zuyun. Although the world is vast, that kid is only in the nascent soul stage. Where can he go? Congratulations to Master Feng, you have obtained the sword body, plus today's happy event, double happiness. Tu asked you for a prize again, is it not too much? Ha ha ha, Deacon Tu, Feng is a hospitable person, not only want to give Deacon Tu a prize, but also want to invite Deacon Tu to drink a glass of wedding wine here. After that, there will be a big gift. After that, Master Feng handed the ring directly to Tu Cheng's hand, and then continued, Deacon Tu is a distinguished guest of my Feng family, you should have the first seat, please. This sudden change in attitude surprised and delighted Tu Cheng. In front of so many cultivators, I think he will not break his promise. Zuyun, that kid, is easy to find. The 5 elements sex spies are all over the spiritual world. Whenever a 5 spiritual root appears, he will eventually be taken to the 5 elements sect. Not to mention Zuyun, who is in the nascent soul stage. Then, I will tell the sect, can this kid still escape from my palm? However, when it comes to sword body, why is this kid running? Could it be that he is still a sword body? He wanted to ask Feng and he, but this question would cause problems, because Zuyun came from the eastern mortal realm with Feng and he. It's better not to ask, when there is a chance, I must catch that kid and ask him. Zuyun teleported several times in succession and finally reached the top of the valley. After finding that no one was chasing him, he couldn't help but feel suspicious. Strange, why didn't a greedy person like Tu Cheng chase me, didn't he say that he would use me to exchange rewards with the Five Elements sect? Without thinking too much, Zuyun knew in his heart that Feng and he must have taken out the real sword body. Is there a sword body in the mortal realm? Zuyun didn't know. But at least, he is safe now. Don't go to the Five Elements sect for now. Tu Cheng will definitely not let me have a good time. If I want to solve the problem once and for all, I can only find a way to kill Tu Cheng, but he is in the spiritualization stage. Zuyun thought about it and felt a headache. The effect of the 5 spiritual pills only lasts for 1 year. Even if he wants to practice in peace and walk safely in the future, he must break through the spiritualization stage within a year, or prepare a large number of 5 spiritual pills within a year. It seems that I can only stay in Tianhui Tian. The spiritual energy in Tianhui Tian is so rich. It should not be difficult to find a few spiritual medicines. It doesn't need to be many, just 1 or 2 can be refined. Things have their priorities. The most important thing at the moment is to stay away from the Sword Valley as much as possible. Going deep into Tianhui Tian is the best choice. The mountain roads in Tianhui Tian are intricate. Zuyun looked around and saw mountains stretching and undulating. Let's go inside. After thinking it over, Zuyun landed on the trail and took the steps to walk the Changshengju steps. However, the people of the 5 Elements sect were extremely sensitive to the power of chaos. When he first went out to sea, it was because the chaos ball was discovered by Tu Cheng. Therefore, he did not dare to use a trace of the power of chaos. Under this condition, his speed naturally slowed down a lot. Fortunately, Tu Cheng was treated as a distinguished guest by Sect Master Feng, and was led to the banquet hall of the Sword Valley and sat on the first seat. Deacon 2, please take a seat first. I still need to see the sword body. Sect Master Feng couldn't wait, holding the painting heaven scroll in one hand and Feng and he in the other, through countless halls and courtyards, and arrived at a sword refining room in the depths. You did a good job. Sect Master Feng took out a pill, threw it to Feng and he, and said, take this pill, and then become the furnace-watching disciple of this sword refining room. After that, he stretched out his hand and tore the painting heaven scroll in half, and Sun Qinyang's delicate body fell out of thin air. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 869. Master, this elixir. You can't blame Feng and he for being so careful. In fact, if he didn't take out his sword before, he might not even be able to get in through this door. Not to mention, the current leader of the Feng family in front of him said that he would be a disciple here to watch the furnace. This is not Feng and he's original intention. He just wants to return to his family to report, then leave the Feng family and go to the land of Juyue. He believed that his Taoist companion and son were already waiting there. This elixir can help purify the wind spirit power in your body. Only direct descendants can enjoy it. Although you are a branch, you have brought a sword body. Naturally, the head of this family can reward you with one. And, take it with the power of this elixir, you will not be affected by the pressure of spiritual energy in the spiritual world, so that you will be no different from ordinary people. This elixir is indeed what Feng and he needs. In particular, he also saw the effect from the elixir painted for Zuyun. Otherwise, Zuyun might not be able to escape from Sword Valley, right? But Feng and he still didn't dare to eat it, because the Feng family master's smile had a bit of a permeable taste. Master, this elixir is too valuable. Feng and he gritted his teeth and returned the pill. Oh! Sect leader Feng raised his eyebrows, somewhat surprised, and then said, why, I don't want the pills for you. Could it be that you want to leave the Feng family? I don't dare, Feng and he said quickly as if he had been seen through. To be honest, the junior's Taoist companion entered the spiritual world channel before the junior, so the junior wants to take her back to the Feng family. He dared not speak of his son. Your Taoist companion? She is one step ahead of you, so why don't she wait for you to come to the spirit world with her? Sect leader Feng asked seemingly unintentionally. The junior's Taoist companion is actually a demon cultivator. She has entered the spiritual realm of the demon cultivator, so she is very likely to appear in the Juyu land. So I want to go to the Juyu land to find her, if the head of the family allows it. I want her to follow me back to Feng's house. Ha ha ha, Feng's sect master laughed and said, since I have accepted you, naturally your Taoist companion is also a member of my Feng family. In this way, you can rest assured that you can take care of the fire for this family master, and your Taoism companion, my master will help you find your Taoist companion. What's your Taoist companion's name? Feng and he didn't expect that things would develop like this, but at the moment, there was nothing he could do. Fortunately, he had told Nangong Tingfeng a long time ago and told her to be careful. If the Feng family found her, she would be able to protect Feng and he. Qingyang and Xianxia. So he said, Master, the younger Taoist companion is named Nangong Tingfeng. What a name! Sect leader Feng chuckled lightly, pushed Feng and he's hand back, and said, my sect leader has made a note of it. It just so happens that a few guests from the demonic path are here this time. When the time comes, my sect leader will ask them to do a favor. It's not a big deal. Just take this pill with peace of mind and just practice your sword here. At this point, Feng and he had no choice but to nod and agree. Do you know what kind of sword is in this furnace? Back to the topic, sect leader Feng pointed at the furnace and said. Junior doesn't know, please ask the head of the family to explain in detail. The Feng family's sword refining skills are in the same line. Even if Feng and he's attainments are low, if the head of the Feng family tells him the steps, Feng and he will not have any problems just by looking at the fire. The sword in the furnace is also forged from the sword body. After saying that, Master Feng ignored Feng and he's shocked look and looked at Sun Qiniang, saying, originally, I wanted to practice double swords so that I could learn the double dragon wind sword passed down from the sect. But the sword body turned out to be a puppet. In this case, it is better to combine the two into one, and use the sword body as an auxiliary. Maybe we can make a fairy sword that surpasses our ancestors. Sect leader Feng's words made Feng and he pale in shock. He knew that the sword body could be used to refine swords, but his skills were not sufficient, and he could not completely confirm the sword body. But generally speaking, a sword body can only be used to refine one sword. This family leader actually wants to combine two sword bodies into one sword? This is too incredible. Sect Master Feng seemed to have seen the doubts in Feng and he's heart, and couldn't help but said proudly, my master's attainments in sword refining are beyond the imagination of a junior in your lineage. However, since you are helping to look after the furnace, this sect master I can give you some advice. Feng and he was surprised and happy, and said quickly, please let the master of the house make it clear. Master Feng nodded and said, refining a sword with a sword body is actually refining the sword body's intelligence into a sword spirit, and using his body as a sword embryo. And the sword body you brought has become the puppet no longer has intelligence, but the body is usable. In this way, the sword spirit will not conflict, but the two sword embryos can make the sword even better. Upon hearing this, Feng and he immediately understood the meaning. As the saying goes, there is no room for two tigers in one mountain, and there is no room for two weapons in one spirit. But the sword embryo. Just listen to Master Feng continue to say, the original sword body is a male sword cultivator, which controls yang, and this sword has been almost refined by me. As for the female cultivator you brought, I can also slightly modify it to make it better. She is the master of yin, and is secondary to the male sword spirit. If the priority is given, there will naturally be no conflict with the sword embryo. So your next task is to transform this sword body as much as possible. As for her spiritual intelligence, it doesn't matter. Anyway, the sword spirit will not allow her to take control of the sword. What's more, this female cultivator no longer has spiritual intelligence, so she can't take it away even if she wants to. Junior understands. A little peace of mind will do the trick. As the saying goes, yin and yang are in harmony. If there is some feminine power in this yang sword, maybe the sword will become more powerful, as the Feng family master said. It's good to understand. If these two dragon wind swords are perfected and you take the lead, then I will let you join the direct lineage and become the godson of the head of my family. The head of the Feng family drew the pie and left with satisfaction. Feng and he, on the other hand, was not very happy. He pretended to be crazy and stupid in the Peeper realm, and wandered among the Yuanying bosses, so naturally he had some sincerity. Despite his submissive appearance in front of others, he actually has his own ideas. Double Dragon Wind Sword. He murmured and pushed Sun Qinyang into the sword furnace. Then, after taking the elixir, he immediately felt the most refined and pure wind spirit power rushing into his nascent soul. After a while, the wind spirit power passed through the nascent soul, passed through the 9 meridians, and traveled around the body. After he digested and absorbed the entire pill, his whole body's momentum also changed drastically. Let's get started. I just don't know if this owner of the family will kill the donkey. It's better to rely on heaven and earth than on yourself. Feng and he had his own thoughts and began to drive the wind spirit power and blew it towards the fire. The head of the Feng family also returned to the banquet hall. Congratulations, Master Feng, I didn't know what a great gift. Paint it straight to the point. He came here just for money and was not interested at all in eating or anything like that. Ha ha ha, Deacon 2, you're already here, why are you so anxious? Could it be that you want to capture that junior who ran away? With your 5 elements sex abilities, who in the spiritual world can escape? Speaking of this, Tu Cheng had no choice but to sit back again. It's really uncomfortable to feel controlled by others. Don't worry, Deacon Tuesday Feng is also the head of the family after all. He has already given 188,000 spiritual stones. How could he refuse to give it in front of so many fellow Taoists? Tu Cheng smiled twice and stopped talking. Then another person stood up, clasped his fists towards Master Feng and said, Master Feng, you didn't say what happened at today's wedding banquet. You also got the sword body. This is a double joy. The first joy is he 11. We are waiting for you. It's been a long time. That's right, Master Feng, the Sword Valley is also a major force in Tianwei. Not to mention our sect, there are many Taoist friends and relatives and friends here who have swords coming from the valley. It's true. We are itching to hear such a happy event from Master Feng. I would like to ask Master Feng to tell us about it so that we can open our eyes. Listening to the excitement in the hall, Sect Master Feng stood up with a smile, stretched out his hands and pressed down, and then said, there are certainly happy events, otherwise there wouldn't be such a big banquet. But, these 2 joys can be combined into one joy. He deliberately let it slip, and the monk who reacted quickly could naturally guess it. Someone suddenly exclaimed in shock, could it be that Master Feng also obtained the sword body before and refined it into a peerless sword? Ha ha ha. Sect leader Feng laughed loudly, stroking his beard and loudly said, Feng is so talented that he refined a peerless true dragon wind sword. As soon as these words came out, the whole audience was silent. True dragon wind sword, the word true dragon, could it be? I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 870. Sword Valley is in Tianwei, and usually keeps a low profile. Suddenly holding a banquet has aroused the interest of many forces, so they sent people to congratulate them and find out the news. Generally speaking, apart from the sword, there is nothing worth talking about in the Sword Valley. Therefore, the people sent by various forces have some weight within their respective sects. Of course they know about the sword body. However, the sword body is useless to them, so no matter how rare the sword body is, they will not go out of their way to find it. But now, Master Feng actually used the sword body to refine a true dragon wind sword. This sword was obviously used by the Feng sect master himself, so it was refined into a wind attribute. But with the word real dragon, could it be possible that they found the real dragon? There is a real dragon in the sky. But no one has ever said that he has seen a real dragon, even a scale dropped by a real dragon. On the contrary, thousands of years ago, the demon dragon clan of the East Mortal realm moved their whole family to Xianxia. But even their hiding place, few people know. So, where does the word true dragon come from? Tu Cheng was also extremely frightened. The Five Elements sect was very sensitive to the pattern of the spiritual world, and even he was no exception. Master Feng, by the so-called true dragon, do you mean it is tempered with true dragon blood, or does it use some of the true dragon's materials? Master Feng laughed and said, this is related to the secret of Sword Valley, I cannot speak frankly. However, a true dragon is a real true dragon. Looking at sect leader Feng, who seemed a little complacent, everyone understood the true purpose of this banquet. Jiang was going to announce that they have stood up in Xianxia. Any magic weapon with the word true dragon in it will never be simple. There are rumors that the real dragon is the dragon of the fairy world. This is equivalent to mastering another level of power. At the same time, leaving Tu Cheng behind may also allow him to bring news to the Five Elements sect as soon as possible. His Sword Valley, his strength has greatly increased. Then Tu will first congratulate Master Feng. Tu suddenly remembered that he has something important to attend to, so he will leave first. Everyone, here you are, eat and drink well. After that, he got up and left. Master Feng said with a smile, Deacon Tu, please slow down, Feng's gift is not ready yet. For such a happy event, Tu will be embarrassed to take back the gift. Farewell. The corners of Tu Cheng's eyes twitched, and Jiang's momentum surged. Regardless of whether they could be evenly matched with the Five Elements sect, if the head of the Feng family took advantage of him, he died here in vain. Even if the Five Elements sect avenges him in the future, he is already dead. What kind of gift can make life important? Moreover, if he sends this news back first, he may be able to get some rewards. Thinking like this, Tu Cheng felt much better. But just after Tu Cheng left Sword Valley, Master Feng said to everyone with a smile, you all have a good relationship with me in Sword Valley, but the Five Elements section uses their power to bully others. They used to eat and drink in my Sword Valley a lot in the early years. Card wants. Master Feng, Minggren doesn't tell secrets, but you want to kill Tu Cheng. The female cultivator from the Demon Moon sect suddenly stood up and said softly. Everyone here is indeed not stupid. The Five Elements sect has always been domineering, and the ordinary forces in Xianxia have long complained. Especially this female cultivator, as soon as she arrived in Xianxia, she personally felt how Tu Cheng treated their Demon Moon sect. If it weren't for the two senior brothers holding her back, she would have wanted to kill Tu Cheng. But now, with sect leader Feng taking the lead in endorsing it, naturally, she doesn't want to let this feud go overnight. Good. The leader of the Feng sect was not polite and said bluntly, the Five Elements sect is used to being overbearing. The more we tolerate it, the more arrogant they become. Even ants painted in such a divine transformation stage dare to blackmail Feng. If they, the scum of people with higher realms, are coming, isn't it true that they can take whatever they ask for? Today, Feng Mao will put his words here. Everyone goes to kill that Tu Cheng. Not only did I, Sword Valley, take it down, but also those 188,000. The spiritual stones are divided among you. As soon as these words came out, almost half of the people stood up with greedy expressions. There are only 200 to 300 forces here, and each family can get at least thousands of dollars. This is not a small amount of money. This is a spiritual stone that they can keep privately. Of course, if someone is unwilling, Fen will not force it. Seeing that some people were unmoved, Sect Master Fen didn't care and said with a smile, "It's just that this spiritual stone cannot be divided." "This is natural," the female cultivator said. "Master Fen has dealt with this matter openly. Everyone, the Demon Moon Sect, will take the first step. We hope that all fellow Taoists who want to vent their evil spirits will follow us as soon as possible." These three people are also in the God transformation stage. Moreover, with Sword Valley as the center, a radius of hundreds of miles is considered Sword Valley's territory. If anything goes wrong during the fight, Jiangu will naturally be responsible. The three people from Moyo sect are not worried at all. As they spoke, the three of them rushed out of the valley like black arrows. After someone started, some people in the crowd rushed out one after another. With hundreds of people killing 1-2 Chen, there is no chance of an accident. Ha ha ha, Feng is here waiting for good news from everyone. Sect leader Feng laughed and sat down. At this time, Zuyun was running towards the depths along the trail of Tianweishan. He knew nothing about this place and had no idea that his whereabouts had been discovered long ago. But because he deliberately put away his chaos power, the immortality art under his feet showed no signs of chaos power. In addition, he was only at the nascent soul stage, so no one noticed him. What's more, he just came out of the Sword Valley. Oh, it's so uncomfortable not being able to fly. Zuyun was very tired, mainly because he didn't have a clear destination. It keeps going uphill and I don't know when it will end. After walking for a long time, Zuyun finally climbed over a hill. But there are several ways down. Zuyun looked carefully, but the road was blocked by clouds and fog, and it was impossible to determine which mountain road led to the depths. I wanted to take out the Chaos Sword and throw a sword to ask for directions. But when I thought about it, I didn't know if I had ever left the boundary of Sword Valley, so I gave up this idea. After much thought, he chose the leftmost path down the mountain. Let it go. Zuyun sighed as he walked away, thinking that when he first came to the spirit world, his eyes would go dark, and his life might be in danger at any time, and he couldn't help but feel dizzy again. I had known that it would not be so easy to go from the spirit world to the mortal world, so I shouldn't have rushed there. It's really difficult now. If I have the chance to go to the fairy world, I must find out everything about the fairy world before talking about it. Zuyun muttered in his heart, and suddenly he didn't pay attention to his steps. He stepped on the air and rolled down the mountain road. Because he didn't dare to use his spiritual power, he had no choice but to let himself roll. Fortunately, his body was strong and the body-shaping pill he had taken in the early years was still somewhat effective after he reached the nascent soul stage. It wasn't until he rolled all the way to the bottom of the valley that Zuyun patted his clothes, stood up as if he had nothing to do, and began to observe the situation around him. It seems like no one has been to this valley. He doesn't know much about Tianweishan, but after insinuating about Tu Cheng, he also knows that every valley in Tianweishan may be occupied by sect forces or demon cultivators as their own territory. But in the valley where Zuyun was at this time, there was no trace of any living beings at all. Even the smell of the air is exceptionally fresh. It would be nice if I could use my spiritual sense. Zuyun muttered again and walked towards the center of the valley. There was no fog at the bottom of the valley, and he could see the entire valley clearly at a glance, which was similar to the space that Zuyun and Yesuanhua were in when they were in Lingjian sect. The only difference is that there is no stream in this valley. Maybe without water, there would be no life here. Zuyun thought for a moment and decided to stay here temporarily. His purpose of walking deeper into the outer world was just to avoid being noticed. And since this valley met the requirements, there was no need for him to go deeper. After making the decision, Zuyun began to search carefully in the valley. When he hit the bottom, he discovered some ordinary elixirs. In a place with rich spiritual energy like the spiritual world, ordinary elixirs are just like weeds in the mortal world. Not long after, he made a surprising discovery. In a clump of weeds, he found a pure and weak aura of earth spiritual power. Very pure. A single type of elixir? Zuyun's eyes suddenly lit up and he quickly stepped forward. His expression suddenly became a little weird. He had seen this elixir in the mortal world. There's also a name that's quite unflattering, Soteria.